All right, well, I think I'm going to go ahead and get started because we've got a group presenting here, one after another, and I want to make sure that that I give them, everyone else in the crew here, time to show their demos and make their presentations. I'm the only Microsoft person as part of this panel. I'm Eric Weicker. I'm the Director of Product Management and Marketing for the Virtual Earth platform. And with me today are a few customers and partners of ours who will be demonstrating their applications and talking about how they're using Virtual Earth as a core component of their business. But what I wanted to do first, varying levels of experience probably in the audience with the Virtual Earth platform, was take a few minutes to introduce the platform, talk about what it is, so that you can have that context in the background when you're hearing these other presentations. The other companies you'll be hearing from are TripHub, which is a collaborative trip planning application, Redfin, which is a real estate application, and InfoNow, which is a partner of Microsoft's that builds out the store locators and applications for a number of marquee brands. Wanted to make a pitch up front for at the end. We're going to try to leave some time. There's going to be some t-shirts for questions, so hopefully we'll have a lively group here. And also they're going to have these posters which talk about the Windows Live platform, which Virtual Earth is a part of, and it talks about the APIs and functionality that you get through the platform. So what is Virtual Earth? Virtual Earth is an integrated set of services that combines bird's eye, aerial, and 3D imagery with best-of-breed mapping, location, and search functionality. And the thing that really sets Virtual Earth apart from a lot of other web services is the fact that it's not just about the software, it's about the data. And so what Microsoft's providing is a base map and access to functionality within that map that allows you to visualize, to have a visual layer that you'll be interacting with your own application. On top, the interactions with that base map include things such as search. Here's some examples. For example, a target store locator. Imagery here shown in a real estate application. And driving directions, including traffic. The way that a developer would interact with these services is through JavaScript and SOAP APIs. And some examples of what's getting built, in addition to the third-party applications you'll see here today, companies are using Virtual Earth internally for things. For example, British Petroleum has a hurricane management system which allows them to visualize their assets such as oil tankers and helicopter platforms in the field and be able to see if there's a hurricane track to query against the area that would be exposed by that event and know which of their assets are at risk and take action accordingly. One of the key customer for Virtual Earth within Microsoft is the live search maps at maps.live.com, and so that's Microsoft's own consumer application built on Virtual Earth, and then other Microsoft applications as well throughout the company which are leveraging Virtual Earth. As the other speakers today will mention, the key thing here is if you try to build out this type of a service on your own, you're going to have a big project ahead of you. Microsoft's been at this for quite a long time and has developed the partnerships to bring in the data and develop the interfaces to enable a wide variety of applications. So these are the key benefits here. And I think I'd also point out the operations and management as a key one, where effectively we're hosting that service, and there's petabytes of data there that you're not having to worry about in terms of updates. And we have this whole partner network to bring in the imagery, the roads, the routing information, the geocoding, and everything else. So that's all just happens on the back end, and that's all available to your customers through your applications. These are these are the examples of what you can do through the two primary interfaces. And many of the companies that are out there are leveraging the Ajax interface, which is sort of traditional Virtual Earth with its rich imagery and bird's eye and 3D functionality. And they're just using that exclusively. But they can also take advantage of the SOAP service, which is more of the legacy service that we call the MapPoint Web Service, which brings in additional functionality, primarily in analytics and data processing. So a hybrid application that would be something, for example, that would use the geocoding service or the multi-point routing service of the SOAP APIs, and then take that over to Virtual Earth and show that on top of the rich visualization layer using the HX interface. So one of the questions we always get, and I'll expect it today, is when are you going to update this, or when are you going to have a map in my area, when are you going to have bird's eye images in my city so I can see my house? And what we're doing here is we're reaching out to our existing customers as well as getting feedback from prospective customers around what the key requirements are. And so we're trying to make sure we make the investments that are going to allow the vast majority of potential customers to reap the benefits as well. And so we're very much ROI-driven organization in terms of where we're expanding our coverage and adding functionality. We also are very focused on our developer story and the platform story, much as the traditional model that we try to follow at Microsoft around the rich documentation and some of the sample applications and the partner model and support, so that anyone who wants to get up to speed on the platform has the opportunity to do so with minimal effort. But the thing we recognize is that the customers are coming from all sorts of geographies with all sorts of requirements. And so just to give you a sense of the richness of the platform, but also the diversity of applications that can be built, these are some of the requirements that come from customers. For example, in the real estate sector, bird's eye imagery is very critical so that you're not just looking at the rooftop. Instead, you're able to actually see the building at an oblique view. And that's just critical, and has opened up a whole new range of possibilities in that sector. With the search applications, the yellow pages information and the points of interest can be critical. And in a fleet management application, obviously traffic information is going to be really important. So that's on the data side. On the functionality side, then you need the rich routing, the geocoding, the community features to be able to really give the developers the opportunity to do something interesting with the data itself. In terms of coverage, we're focused primarily on North America and Europe, but we're expanding. And so again, if you have requirements, if you've got an idea, a customer lined up, an application going, we're being proactive, but we also want to hear from customers around what they want to do and what they need so that we can have that as part of the prioritization process. Again, with MIX, we're focused here mostly on, primarily on the customer-facing applications, but in many cases, some of the same technology can be repurposed for internal use scenarios, like this hurricane management system that I talked about. So once you've made the investment, especially if you're an intermediary, a partner, you might look for opportunities for internal use where a company would be using Virtual Earth in conjunction with some of the other technologies that are rich in visualization, such as SharePoint or Visio. The three key scenarios that people are using the application for, or the platform for, data analysis, visualization, and then just basic mapping itself. I think you'll see examples of all of that with the partners today. And then the other key areas that I'll just touch on briefly, the industries that we've seen broad, rich applications for and broad adoption include real estate, retail, which would be store locators primarily, travel planning, hospitality, where you've got a sort of crossover between rich information and the locations of timeshares and things like that, and then transportation and logistics. Just to give you a sense of the prioritization and how we're trying to enable ROI, is we look at the investments we could make in terms of new imagery, broader usage rights, and then we're getting the feedback from the customers around what it is that they want to do, whether they want to pay directly for that, whether they want to have a shared revenue model, And so we're trying to balance that, find the right mix, and bring that to market as quickly as we can. The key thing I would mention there sort of as an example would be the usage rights. When we get street network or data from a third party, they're going to have one price to Microsoft if all that we're going to expose through the platform is a red line with a name on it and a blue line with a name on it. But if we want to expose the rich data behind it, including the speed limits, the address ranges, and all the other information that is in the database, then there's going to be another price for that. So we need to have the feedback from the customers and be able to differentiate the offerings appropriately so that basically neither Microsoft nor you as the customer are paying for more than what you really need. And so that's the path we're on, is trying to make sure that we structure the API and the product offering with a very flexible model so that it can always be just what you need. Talked a little bit about the history that Microsoft has and sort of we've done most of the hard work so that hopefully you just have to use the interface and take advantage of that. Actually, I got started in this group back when we were doing the trip planning products. And back then, we had a separate streets product and a trip planning product because the data did not support the ability to route on the streets, because at that time, the networks had only been created for the purpose of building out print maps. And so the lines may appear to look very good on a print map, but they weren't physically connected in the network. And so over time, we've worked with vendors to build out a connected network so that it actually does take you the shortest route or the fastest route or the most scenic route, whatever it may be. And so this is where we're at now, where Virtual Earth is sort of bringing all this content and together with the web service opportunities and making it available. I think in the early days it was really just a Microsoft story, and now we have the opportunity where many of the most interesting things are happening through partners and customers. Here's an example of some of those customers and representing many of the industries. Some of these you'd recognize the purpose that a McDonald's, for example, would be where are the McDonald's. Other ones are going to be using it for analytics, mostly on the public sector side, some of the military and government names that you see up there, and then banking, insurance, and almost every industry has an application. So in terms of adoption, we look at a couple of different models. What we want to do is we want to make sure that developers, mashup developers, startups, even large corporations can get up and get working with this. So the API, the Virtual Earth platform, is available to code against now for free. You don't have to sign up, register. And it's really, the intention there is to show you the possibilities. And we do that through sample applications and through how-to articles and our active forums and user base. But the idea is that you can get up and build your site, and if you're interested in monetizing your site through a shared advertising model, then that's what covers the fee to Microsoft. We make big investments as a company to build out the platform, and so one way or another, we'll be either monetizing it through the advertising in this situation, or in the case of commercial adoption and deployment, through a license with Microsoft. And in that case, it brings in a whole set of support and services from Microsoft, where now if you're building out your company or your business around Virtual Earth, you can take a dependency on Microsoft and know that in terms of customer support and service level agreement, that Microsoft will be there for you. And so those are the two main models, but really what we're trying to do as well, as you see here in terms of, are you paying per transaction, per user, per device, is to recognize that there's different ways that companies monetize their own business, and we want to have licensing models that are in alignment with that. And so we can do custom agreements as well to take advantage of that. So just a pitch for how you can get started with Virtual Earth. One thing that's customers have just been raving about is an interactive SDK. And after the session, I'll be happy to hang out and show everybody all this stuff, but I want to leave the time for the others for their demos. But this is an application that's a what you see is what you get, where you can tab back and forth between JavaScript code and then what it looks like in the product. And so, and then if you like what you see, copy and paste it into your application. A really good way to get started quickly and to see what the code looks like for the different functions. Of course, I mentioned getting help either from Microsoft or from the community with blogs and forums, and a rich set of sample applications through Microsoft's own gallery at dev.live.com, as well as through third-party galleries, Programmable Web, via Virtual Earth, and other sites. And then the rich partner channel, where now there's a new data visualization specialty within Microsoft, which Virtual Earth is part of, and so be able to get certified and participate in the official Microsoft partner program as a Virtual Earth specialist. Just an example of some more applications, as well as some of the key partners that we've got here. When you get the deck, I put this slide in, don't write them down, but all the major resources that you'd want to follow up on will be in the deck that's I believe they're making available through the MIX conference. So thank you, and now I'll turn it over to the others, starting with TripHub.
Can you hear me now? You can hear me now. Bear with me for 1 second here. I'm just going to check, make sure that we've got our connectivity going. Actually, site's up and running. Bear with me. While I'm signing in here, hello everybody. My name is John Pope, and I'm Vice President of Marketing for TripHub. Vice President of Marketing basically means I do everything from PR, customer acquisition, product planning, some business strategy, and even making coffee once in a while. For those of you who aren't familiar, we are a 5-person Seattle-based company. We got a couple other contractors. I'm down here with Chris Kinsella, which is half of our development team, and he built all the great stuff that I'm going to show you today. So, typing is not my strong skill set here. Make sure I get this right. So what I'm going to do is, we're a company that's based on leisure travel, helping people plan group trips. We've been around for a little while. I'm going to show you what we did with Virtual Earth and how we integrated that across the across the TripHub application. Talk a little bit about some of the challenges we had, but also mostly tell you about why we're so excited about maps. First, what I want to do is give you a little bit of background on the company. Our mission is here on the slide. Our goal is to be the best way to plan and coordinate any gathering that involves travel. Okay, so that could be anything from a wedding, a spa weekend, a ski trip, a getaway, bachelor party, family reunions, etc. And in fact, these are the 3 target segments that we focus on primarily, with friends and family being about 70% of our business today. We also have some clubs and teams, schools, alumni organizations, things like that using TripHub. We launched the site back in March, but we kind of went big and officially announced in August, so we've really only been up for about 8 months or so. We've got a few thousand people using TripHub now to plan it, with groups averaging about 9 to 10 per each group, so a few thousand at 9 to 10 per group. Our business model, we have a 2-pronged business strategy, and that is advertising and referral fees, which is really what we do primarily on TripHub.com. And then we also have a private label offering where we essentially take and fully host a branded version of TripHub's, the tools that I'm going to show you today actually, for 3 different people who are signed, 2 of whom are on the slide here. AlaskaAir.com uses our tools for their group planning solution. And then just last week, we released with a company called People to People Student Ambassadors Travel. And they do student travel to global places for cultural exchange reasons. Our third we'll announce probably later on this summer. So I'm sure many of you have been involved in planning those family reunions or trips with friends, et cetera, and you're probably familiar with the headaches that come along with trying to coordinate planning and decision and all the communications across multiple parties. It's a pain in the butt, quite frankly. And in fact, one of our customers, I think, said planning a group trip with his friends was like as much fun as a mouthful of thumbtacks, I think he said. So we agree, and that's the problem that we're trying to solve. What most people do today is they'll go across the internet, and they'll use best-of-breed individual applications, none of which really talk to each other, excuse me, to plot out various different parts of the planning process. And then, inevitably, they open their favorite Office application. Usually it's either Word or Excel. They start creating lists. They send those lists out in email, and then you got version control issues, email hell in general, and then insanity sets in, and that sort of takes all the fun out of going on a group trip. So our solution was to create a fully integrated end-to-end solution that really serves all the needs from what we call the sort of the point of inspiration. That could be a dinner party where maybe 5 couples are together, excuse me, and they all say, someone says, hey, let's go to Mexico next fall. And then usually the sucker raises their hand and says, okay, I'll coordinate that. All the way from the point of inspiration into sort of who's coming, when are people coming, researching and discussing options, obviously organizing and making decisions, even finding things to buy, sharing itineraries regardless of where you purchased it. We support all purchases regardless of where you buy. And then ultimately even sharing the post-trip memory stuff. So that's our application. Our goal really is to engage and retain customers during this whole process. These planning cycles can be over a year. Most of them are a couple months, but they can be over a year. And that gives us opportunity to get offers from travel suppliers in front of these people and hopefully make both our advertising partners and the customers' lives much better. So the net summary is our core value proposition is really helping people view and share information and make smarter planning decisions. And what we've done, as you'll see, is we've actually now integrated the virtual Earth mapping software across most parts of our application. So it's really pretty tightly integrated across all of TripHub. I'll show you that. In fact, I'm going to do a demo now. I thought I'd take 1 second before I dive into the demo just to say that we are basically a Microsoft shop. That is to say that we're using Windows Server, ASP.NET, obviously. Chris and Matt use Visual Studio 2005 for all the development work. But having said that, we also have a couple other open source tools and third-party applications, some of which we've modified, all of it which works very well together on the Windows platform. So we're truly kind of a mix company, if you will. We also have a real challenge in terms of our data sources because we have both structured and unstructured data. Some of that comes from user input, and basically none of it is geocoded. So we have a real problem in terms of how do you take that information that's been input and how do you show it to people on a map if you don't actually have geocoding, and that's where Virtual Earth helps us considerably. So this is a little bit squished here, but the real quick scenario I'm gonna walk through here is a group of women who are planning a 40th birthday party here in Las Vegas. They've gone on a trip together before. This is sort of an annual thing that they do. I'm signed in as Felicity, but I can guarantee you I'm nowhere near as good looking as a Felicity should be. Here we are on what we call our trip homepage. Basically, this is the summary of what's going on in the trip, where up at the top here you can see the details of where people are going, when, description of what they're doing. We've got a nice little photo here that people can look at. Pretend these are the women who went on this trip last year, and now they're going to do Sandra's 40th birthday party. And what we've exposed here on this page is sort of a summary of all the invitation and RSVP management. This may look familiar to some of you. As you can see, we've got sort of a summary of the events that are in this trip. We've got a summary of the blog discussions that are underway within this trip. And then down at the bottom here, we've actually got some discussions about what hotel options these women might want to stay at. And of course, front and center, we've got our trip maps and directions. And each of these modules essentially leads to a deeper part within the site. And it's worth noting that we give the organizer the ability to set the zoom on this particular map so that when all the invitees come into this trip, they actually get the view that the organizer wants them to see. The other thing I'll mention here is you'll notice that there's some targeted ads here. Again, with 10 people per trip on average, anywhere from 3 to 4 or 5 days, these groups are spending upwards of $5,000 each. So to the extent that TripHub can see where they're going, when they're going, and what purpose they're going for, but even where they are in the planning process. It gives us a very unique ability to target advertising to these guys. Okay, I'm going to keep zooming along here. In this case, someone has suggested, actually it was me, Felicity, suggested staying at the Paris. I'm going to click on this. We'll get the hotel details that are provided by Hotels.com. That's a division of Expedia. What we've done is we've taken the data feed we get from them and we've modified it a little bit so that we can introduce sort of this concept of collaborative hotel shopping. Most groups don't do the shop, select, purchase that we're all familiar with from most of the large online travel agents today. They tend to want to say, what do you guys think of this option? Or, hey, I've stayed there, let's try this one instead. So as you can see, Felicity's left a comment. Other people who are part of this trip can leave a comment too and post that for other members to see. Or if this sounds good, they want to see where it's located, they can click on a map link here, and we'll go to the map view of this hotel. Now, I'd love to tell you that Hotels.com has provided lat long for us to post on the map here. They are inconsistent in their object model. So in this case, we do not have lat long. We're having to do a call to the VE web service. And what will return eventually here, sorry about the wireless speed. I'll blame it on the wireless speed. I can do that, right? What will return here is the Paris plotted on the map along with the other events and things that are part of this trip. So we have sort of the default set at Street View. This is the Paris right here. And as you can see over on the right here, other items that are part of this trip, events and accommodations, have also plotted on the map. In fact, I'll just zoom out a little bit and you can see all those here. So you'll also notice we use the little calendar icon for events, and we use the little hotel for accommodations. I bring it up only because it's something to be aware of if you're doing mapping. Creating the right icons and sort of managing the aliasing issues across several different views. You'll notice Virtual Alert provides the road, the aerial, and the hybrid view. Managing the aliasing along with all the browser matrix can be pretty complicated, and there's a little bit of arm wrestling in our office to sort of get to the GIFs for the standard images, and then we used PNG alpha transparencies for the hover over. So anyway, lots of fun on that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh the trip map because I want to show you one other thing. Again, I mentioned that we don't have lat and long for the hotels. We do actually have lat and long for the events. So what you'll see is the events will all load basically simultaneously, and then the hotels will load one at a time. And what's happening, kind of creative on Chris's side, is he's built a little hidden map that's actually doing the call and returning all the right client-side data in terms of address, lat long, zoom level, and centering on the map. Now, if we showed that on our map while all that was happening, the map would sort of be jarring around every time a new item was added. So we've avoided that by creating this hidden map. And again, I apologize for the speed here. I suspect this will load in 1 second. And I was going to also talk about, so again, in general, we've got lots of different data sources, some structured, some unstructured, most of it without lat long. You can enter events into a TripHub trip, and we will store the lat long for you, but we only do that today for the events. So it doesn't look like it's going to render for me. So let's give it one more second, because I wanted to zoom into something else and show you one of what I think is the most cool feature, the bird's eye view that is provided, which some of you may have seen. It gives you a very nice view of the actual landscape at the location that's on the map. And what I think is fun about that is if you're going to somewhere that's unfamiliar, being able to see sort of an angled bird's eye view of what's happening at that location is very compelling. It can help remind you of a couple things. Okay, this is not going to work for me, is it? I'm looking at Chris, our developer. He doesn't know either. Let's see if I can move on to a different part of our application here. I was going to move from the bird's eye view into our event schedule, again, to sort of show how we've integrated the map links from the event schedule back into the mapping stuff. Our event schedule is basically just a summary of events. It's a shared summary of events of what's happening in this trip. And in this case, anyone in the trip can add a new event. So they've got an arrival dinner, they've got a spa day. Oh, and look, they're going to Chippendales on Sunday night. Yeah, that's good. In all cases here, we have preserved lat and long so that when I do click on a map link, it'll actually return on the map with the correct setting without having to do the hidden map stuff, et cetera. Because we have this free-form text entry, though, where anybody can enter a new event and type in their own address, we had to deal with the disambiguation of that information. And our code actually has to handle sort of these four states, if you will, of disambiguation. So one may be user enters the right address, it's distinct, it's unique, everything plots fine. Second scenario might be virtual Earth returns something that says, hey, we think you meant this, but here are 4 or 5 other options that you might have meant. A third option is the closest thing we could find to what you entered is this, and here are some other options if you want to correct us. And then, of course, fourth option may be the thing times out for whatever reasons. We could set the timeout limit. If we don't get a return from virtual Earth, then the code has to solve that too. So Chris managed all that in what you see here. In this case, here's the late night snack at Mel's. Driving directions that Eric mentioned. Very easy to do driving directions. If Felicity had to get from Mel's back to, let's say, the Paris, she could do a drive from, maybe even go over here to look for the Paris, drive to, and you can see down below we've pre-populated those addresses, so all she has to do is print a get directions and even print this out and take it with her on the trip. So pretty cool feature, and then reverse that direction if you want to go the other way. So last thing I'll show here is actually one of my favorite features, and we've integrated the local search, live search. We've integrated live search to help with finding and discovering new things to do and new places to see, which has been part of the value proposition of TripHub from day one. So let's say the women want to do something maybe before they go out to Chippendales. They can enter anything they want here. Let's try museum. Did I spell that right? Get a little bit of culture before going to see Chippendales. That only makes sense. And you notice how quickly everything plotted. And who wouldn't want to go see the Elvis Arama Museum and Gift Shop? I mean, that's just killer. So you'll see what we've done is we've integrated the ability to go straight from the map and add that particular item to the event schedule. So it makes it super easy from the map to add new things to the trip. And eventually we'll do this with hotels as well. At least that's part of the plan. So what happens, I get to the event schedule, we pass the address on the query string, it pops up, and I can enter the dates, enter the times, click save, and I'm done. I've even got the phone number in here and obviously the address as well. So as you can see, we've really integrated Virtual Earth across many parts of the TripHub application. We're finding it super useful, and in fact, we're already getting some good feedback from our users as well. I think Chris spent about 3 weeks or so from initial investigation of APIs, including Virtual Earths and some of those competitor guys, all the way through the development and QA and shipping this feature. So it was only 3 weeks, one guy's time, and that's what we came up with so far. But the ROI so far has been, we know that we're filling a top need for users. We did some research with a large travel research company called Focusrite. Maps and driving directions were one of the key asks of users who use travel planning sites, so we've now kind of covered that, which is great. I mentioned the integration of local search to help people find new things to do and discover new places. Again, a core part of the value proposition we can offer people thanks to the live search. And then just a data point, we've got, in the average trip, we have an average of 4 or more address-based items per trip. And so the maps enable us to sort of provide a different way to view and share that information, which is really useful. In fact, we've seen record numbers of events added per trip in the 4 weeks since we shipped the Virtual Earth software. So we're pretty excited about that. In addition to that, actually, we've seen an increase in page views. And page views means inventory. Inventory means advertising, which means revenue to TripHub. I'd be remiss not to mention, in fact, how adding mapping technologies have enhanced the platform solution that we offer. So our private label partners, Alaska, and student ambassadors were totally psyched to see maps as part of the solution. And of course, we'll be using that value add in our business development discussions going forward. And finally, we have a surprisingly high number of requests from customers who go on driving trips. They don't fly anywhere. And they've said, hey, can't you guys provide more for those of us who drive? And so we've essentially expanded our market opportunity by appealing to this segment as well. So, none of this really matters until you get the feedback from the consumers and the media, and actually we've been blessed to get both. A couple quotes up on the screen, so we're very, very happy about what this has done for us, even in just 4 weeks with 3 weeks of development time. So I covered most of this. I'm going to try and go quickly through this only because we've got other stuff to cover, and I know we wanted to leave time for Q&A. These are the core reasons Eric had asked us to speak about why we chose Virtual Earth. These are really the core reasons why TripHub did. The disambiguation is huge. What I'm showing here is how you disambiguate, how we chose to disambiguate Albany. Lots of options for Albany. So the user can then choose which one they mean here. Very helpful for us given the unstructured nature of the data that we have and the free-form ad hoc input that the consumers are doing. The other thing, the intelligent zoom, if you will, or I think Chris calls it appropriate zoom, which returns with every item so you know exactly where to set the zoom. We didn't have to do that on our side. Huge, huge value add. I think that's one of your favorite features, Chris, if I'm not mistaken. Eric mentioned the global coverage. 30% of the trips on TripHub are going outside the US, so that was a really key criteria for us. Definitely better global coverage, and of course Microsoft is a very large global company we know will continue to improve on that front as well. I mentioned local search and the sizzle of the bird's eye view. Here's my favorite of the Seattle Space Needle, which I added gratuitously on Friday. Okay, so going forward, totally psyched to look at the new APIs and even future iterations and versions that are coming out. We've got a lot of ideas of things we want to do on TripHub with the Virtual Earth software. A lot of them had to do with sort of just basically how we consume and use the information. We need to do a lot more persisting of Latin long across our object model so that we can increase page load time, for instance, and also improve the way that you can view and share this information. We're going to leverage local search even more than we do now to maybe help with hotel input. I mentioned, people may buy somewhere else, maybe Expedia or Orbitz or somewhere, but they still want to share their itinerary and their plans on TripHub. Right now, it's a manual entry. Well, why not give people an opportunity to say, here's a city, here's a hotel, and we'll just pre-populate the address, the phone number, and all the other details that go along with that. Or better still, let's let them do a local search on the map and then add it straight from the map into your personal itinerary, your own member record, if you will, in the same way we just added the museum event onto the trip schedule. There's obviously a lot of things we can do in terms of exposing more things in the hover over. I've shown a few examples here. In fact, the bottom 3 things should all be highlighted. Who's staying at this facility? There are 5 comments. See what those comments are. Maybe even give people an opportunity to leave a comment straight on the map itself. But then beyond that, beyond sort of the basics of things we can do, I think there's a lot of exciting things we can do to sort of help bring forth the community on TripHub and expose that a little bit better. And one of my dream features is what I call a trip heat map. And you can imagine that might show what types of trips, look at a view, say, of the US, what kinds of trips are being planned where in the country, bachelor parties in Las Vegas, surprise, surprise, but also what are sort of the location-based items that are parts of those trips. And then extend that one step further, and maybe we give people the opportunity to say, create this trip for me. And we just automatically set up a new trip where we pre-populate all the events, all the accommodations, and all the other location-based information as part of that trip and make it super easy to get started planning a trip. I think that would be very compelling. Finally, we do have a vision longer term of going from what is primarily today private social networks, groups of friends and family who already know each other, and doing a better job of sort of exposing the broader community of groups that are using TripHub, sort of cross-group, right? And we can do that by allowing people to leave comments and reviews and photos and maybe start surfacing the collective knowledge and wisdom of people using TripHub. So I think I'm probably out of time. Chris is wincing because I keep adding new feature requests. So I'm going to wrap it up here. If any of you have any questions, my name is John, and here's John at TripHub. That's how to get in touch with me. Again, I want to thank Microsoft for including us in MIX. This is great. And please use TripHub and tell 5,000 friends. Thanks.
Hello? Okay. Hi, I'm Matt Goyer. I'm a product manager at Redfin. I almost said Microsoft there. I see a couple familiar Microsoft faces in the crowd. I worked there for a couple years, but recently changed companies to Redfin. I'm excited to come here and talk about how we use Virtual Earth. For those of you not familiar with Redfin, Redfin is an online real estate broker. What that means is that unlike other real estate search sites on the web, since we're a brokerage, we have access to the multiple listing services in each of the markets we serve. This gives us access to all the inventory of homes in those areas. We serve areas like the greater Seattle region, greater Bay Area, Southern California, and Boston. Now, the way we differ from a traditional real estate agent is that we're also a technology company. And so we use technology to automate the process of finding, buying, and selling homes. Now, when I tell people I work at an online real estate company, the first question they ask after making a bit of a funny face is, why would you expect someone to buy a house online without having seen it first? So let me just briefly explain how Redfin works. So traditionally when I go and find an agent to go look for a home, we meet at Starbucks on a Saturday morning, we sit down and they have an action plan and they drive me around and show me a number of different homes in their Lexus. The way Redfin works is that we expect customers to do the work themselves. They come to our website, we provide access to all the information that traditionally the real estate industry would keep under lock and key. So information like sales history, tax information, appraisals, all the photos, the description, the amenities, where the house is located are all available on our website. Once you've found the house or maybe a couple houses that you're interested in after day, week, or month of searching, through our website, you schedule with us a time to go see those houses. One of our field agents will show it to you. Then when you've found your dream home and it's time to make the offer, you actually come back to our website and you draft the offer online. Once you submit the offer, we take your offer, we negotiate on your behalf. Once the offer is accepted, we take it through inspection, title, escrow, and close. So as I mentioned, the key difference here is who's doing the work of finding the home. What we're trying to do is empower the customer. Typically, a real estate agent is going to spend 80% of their time finding new customers and then driving them around. By customers using our website themselves, we're able to save them a lot of money. And we do this by refunding the customer 2/3 of our commission. So if you buy a home through Redfin, the average refund check you'll receive is around $10,000. So it's important that we have this highly addictive search experience. Now, I'm sure you've all heard the cliche, location, location, location. And it's never more true than for real estate, because location is what determines the value of your home. And this is what makes it so important that we have a map with listings. It's also what made Redfin the most popular search site in Seattle. So, before I talk about how we use Virtual Earth, let me talk about our original map, because we didn't just go off and decide to use Virtual Earth. We started with our own application and decided to throw it away. So we were the first real estate company to come out with a map and put listings over top back in October 2004, long before Microsoft and Google had web map platforms. This application, the front end was built using Flash, the back end was in Java, and we acquired the imagery ourselves from the USGS. On the screen here, you can see one of the problems we had. This is looking at the Seattle region, and you can see some freeways here going out, this blue line going out into this white nothing area. That area is actually Issaquah, a suburb just outside Microsoft where a lot of Microsoft employees like to live. 40% of our customer base works in technology, many of them at Microsoft. If you can't find a home on our map, it's going to be very hard for you to buy a home through our website. But we also had these other pains with our own map platform. It wasn't just the imagery. For instance, we didn't have a road view, something that customers have grown to expect from using Google Maps and Microsoft's map solution. We also had this wonky user experience. Our zoom control, you can see the bottom here, is actually inverted from the one that everyone else in the industry uses. Our scroll button didn't work. The keyboard shortcuts didn't work. It wasn't the site that customers would expect. So you can imagine that one of the reasons we switched was aerial imagery, but there's a couple others as well. Around October, or the middle of 2005, Microsoft and Google both came out with their own map platforms. We were struggling with our own. And we were faced with this question of, do we continue to use our own map platform, or do we switch to someone else's? It was clear that there's an arms race going on. Two multi-billion-dollar companies battling it out to build the best and biggest map platform. We're a small company in Seattle. We only have about 10 developers and a few QA. It is not our forte in terms of building a map experience. So we wanted to focus on what we're good at, and that's building a real estate website and not building image pyramids. As you saw on the last slide, our aerial imagery was very spotty. We didn't want to just be in Seattle. We wanted to grow beyond Seattle and become a national online real estate brokerage. And the problem was that adding cities was expensive. We started off in Seattle, and to add San Francisco using our own map platform took 3 months to build out, an incredibly long period of time. It was way behind schedule and took a lot more effort than we realized. This January, we switched to Virtual Earth. And since then, we've been able to at least quadruple our market size, adding Southern California and Boston. We can now add markets at a much more rapid pace. We're no longer gated by technology, but instead are gated by how quickly we can hire people in those markets. And lastly, we sought a platform for future innovation. Whenever we would try and add a feature on top of our own map platform, we would introduce more bugs than the value that the feature was adding. It was a nightmare. We weren't making any forward progress. So it became very clear that it was time to make a switch. Now, maps, as you can imagine, are what bring customers into our website. It's our customer acquisition strategy. It is what enables us to have very low marketing costs by providing this addictive search experience. And so when it came time to make a decision, the decision actually was quite easy. Let's throw it out and let's switch to Virtual Earth. And so let me just show you exactly how we use Virtual Earth. So this is the Redfin website. As you can see, the map is the center of the experience. And we put homes over top of the map with these little icons. I smiled when John was talking about how they struggled over their icons. We struggled very hard with our icons. The colors, the different states, it's a nightmare. It's not the things that you would expect to trip you up, but we actually spent more time on that than I think almost any other problem when we were implementing Virtual Earth. So let's just click around here. So what we do is, we actually just made a change to our website where when you click on a home, we don't show a bubble over the top of the map like a lot of other websites do. We actually display the details over on the right-hand side. So this leaves more room for you to see what else is around the house, a very important feature for users. It also enables us to display a bigger photo and more information about the house. Now, one of the neat things we do is we actually overlay a lot of different data on top of our map. And this internet connection is a little bit slow, but let's just zoom in a little bit. So now I can use the scroll wheel, very nice feature that you get for free with Microsoft, which was actually hard for us to implement ourselves. What you see here is we're looking at a tip just outside Seattle surrounded by water, and we draw actually the outline of the property. And so we have these custom polygons that we put over top of the map. One of the other data feeds we pull in is actually all the past sales information. So if we click Show Past Sales and Show All and do another search, and we wait since we're querying millions and millions of different records from the county, you can see all the different past sales in a neighborhood. I wish I had bought this place for $110 million back in 1999. It's prime location. So again, this is all information that typically you don't have access to on a real estate website. Real estate agents want you to call them and get the information from them, but our motto is completely different. We only want you to call us when you're ready to make a purchase. So if we go back to this home here, we can click through on it. Just open up a new tab. See lots of different information about the house. You can see the photos available. We pull in the sales history and we pull in the tax information. find out information about local schools, Zillow's estimate, all the amenities, everything we're allowed to display, we display. We don't hold anything back. Information about who the listing agent is, you can call them, ask questions. Something you don't see here, but we need to add really quickly, is the bird's eye view, and I'll talk more about that later. But we definitely want to be able to show that. Switch back to the map here. Just turn off those past sales since it slows our performance a little bit. We also pull in school information. So if we zoom out a few times, so now we're looking at the Kirkland area of Seattle. Oh, waiting for the tile to load. Where's some schools? Okay, so there's a school down here. So this is just more information that we're layering over top of the virtual Earth map experience. All right, so let me tell you a little bit more about why we chose to use virtual Earth in our decision matrix. So when we first made the decision to throw away our map platform and use someone else's, there's around 10 different options, ranging from acquiring aerial imagery from a commercial imagery provider, to using a service like MapPoint and building our own back end on top of it, and then building our own front end, to using a Web 2.0 style platform like Virtual Earth or Google Maps. When we looked at those different options, it became quite apparent to replace our entire map solution. The fastest way to do that would be to use the Web 2.0 style SDK. And then some of the things we considered once we narrowed it down to Google versus Microsoft, the sort of two major companies in this space, were speed. How quickly could we build it? And then how quickly could we add features over top of it? Then how well would they support our Redfin feature set? I showed you we have these polygons for the lot outline. How easy would it be for us to draw those and overlay those over top of the map solution? What about our features like schools and parks? Before, when we built it ourselves, we brought in data layers for the roads, for the road names, for the parks. All that we built ourselves, and we had to ensure that our map platform would also provide those. Then we looked at imagery, and imagery, besides location, is the next most important thing. And we looked at both the breadth and depth of imagery provided by both partners. We needed to ensure that whoever we chose would support all the new markets we wanted to go into. We also had to ensure that it was deep. It had to provide not just a good city-level view, but also a good street-level view and have good bird's-eye imagery. The next thing we looked at was additional data layers. Every data layer that we could pull in from one provider like Microsoft that would spread across the entire United States would save us a lot of time. Right now, we spend a lot of our development effort wrestling with county tax feeds, county sales history feeds, and all the different MLSs. Somewhere like the greater San Francisco area, we're pulling in listing information from 6 different multiple listing services. It's a lot of effort. We'd rather we spend our time on that and have one partner take care of data layers such as transit or crime or weather information. Next, we looked at browser support. 2 most popular ones, no surprise, Internet Explorer and Firefox. But what about the third, Safari? I'll talk about more about that in a second. Next is the monetary cost, which is pretty much the same between the 2 companies. In the end, what really won us over to Virtual Earth, and which I'm a little bit embarrassed we don't support yet, is the bird's eye imagery. Next to location, photos are the most important thing. Houses on the internet that have more photos sell more quickly. It's no surprise. And by integrating bird's eye imagery, we're going to be able to add 4 more photos per house, giving a user a sense of not just what the house looks like, but what the yard looks like, and how it fits in relation to the rest of the neighborhood. Next thing that we're really excited about Virtual Earth is their 3D platform. We're kind of busy and have our hands full now, but I can imagine in the future that we will want to integrate with that and provide a 3D web view of the user being able to walk down the street and look at homes. And I've said this again and again, but data layers, extremely important to our business. Users ask for them over and over again. Now what surprised us, not necessarily surprised us, but what we're really happy to find after making the decision to go with Virtual Earth has been the customer support. From everything from their well-documented SDK, to the technical support alias, all the way up to the program managers, the evangelism team, and their general manager, we've had incredible support from Virtual Earth in implementing it with our website. And that has made our lives a lot easier. So once we switched to Virtual Earth, what was the customer reaction? Up on the screen are a couple of the positive quotes we received, but the Redfin user base is extremely vocal. Our users come back to our website many times a day. They are addicted to looking at new listings and new information about homes. This is the largest purchase of a lot of their lives. They're putting a lot of time and investment into it, and any change to the customer experience can throw them off balance. And so when we changed to Virtual Earth, one of the things we did was introduce this idea of a house icon. Previously, we would just always draw the parcel outline, but we found some users had a hard time clicking on it. And so we used an icon at higher zoom levels. The problem was, I didn't give a lot of thought to the size of that icon. We just sort of threw a house on there and called it a day and focused on some of the harder problems, like what color the icon should be. Except, we received countless emails within hours of launching saying the icon was way too big. And within 24 hours, we actually had to roll out a new version of the website with a smaller icon. So I encourage you to pay attention to not just the bigger problems of integrating Virtual Earth, but also what the user experience is going to be once you do so. And then over the last couple months, since we rolled it out in January, we've received probably hundreds of emails about performance on our website. Our website has been embarrassingly slow. Fortunately, last week we rolled out a new version, and we made a lot of improvements to our performance, but it's still not quite there yet. Some of the changes we had to make were reducing the number of round trip times, reducing the page weight size, using a content delivery network. Those are just some of the things we've had to do. And then fortunately, Virtual Earth, when they rolled out the new version a couple weeks ago, they started gzipping the map control, which shaved 300 kilobytes off of our page weight. And then when we move to Virtual Earth 5 in a couple weeks, we hope there's going to be even more performance improvements that we can take advantage of. But there's still a long way to go. Performance is a feature that's never done. And so I encourage you to think about performance from the beginning. It wasn't something that was in our selection criteria at the beginning, and I wish it was, and I wish we had paid more attention to it from the onset, instead of having to react to it after we released the website and found out that it was much too slow. Next, the second largest issue we've received emails about is Safari support. Our Flash application used to support Safari. When we made the switch to Virtual Earth, unfortunately, we had to drop that 5% of our user base. For a small company like ours, 5% is a lot. Each customer is expensive to acquire, retain, and represents thousands and thousands of dollars of revenue to our company. And to say goodbye to them was painful. And they think each and every one of them have let us know that with some pretty nasty emails. But fortunately, we've been working with Microsoft, and we're optimistic that within a quarter or two, we'll be able to release a new version of the website and support Safari again, which will be great. And then again, our users have been very vocal about what they want in our search experience and of our map. They want more data layers. People in Seattle, they want to know about the school districts. Where's my kid going to go to school? People in San Francisco are most worried about where the earthquake faults are and whether they're going to buy a house in a liquefaction zone. People in Los Angeles are worried about traffic and commute times. So anything you can do to add more data layers has seemed to be a very positive thing that customers want. For the future, what we hope to do is integrate in the bird's eye imagery. That's definitely the number one thing that we have to do next, and hopefully our developers are hard at work in Seattle while I sit by the pool here and are taking care of that. We'll have that out within a couple months. But next, like you saw in TripHub, driving directions is key. It'd be great if when you saw an open house on our website, you could have one click and get directions to the open house. Or if on a Sunday, you could build a driving direction itinerary to all the different open houses in the neighborhood you're searching in. Next, integrate in with the local live services. Once I find a house, what bars are nearby? I don't cook, so what restaurants are close by? Where are the grocery stores if I do? Those are just some of the features we're looking at adding in the short term. Long term, it's pretty similar to TripHub as well. We want to have more collaboration, more community. If I'm searching with a spouse, how can that experience work together on the web? How can we both select homes on a map, and then what's going to be that intersection of the homes that we're interested in, and it's that intersection we'll go look at together. These are just some of the things we're looking at. So I hope that gives you a sense of some of the struggles we had in the past building our own map application, then the decisions we went through when selecting a partner. It was a big decision for us. We're a technology company staffed by people from Microsoft, Amazon, and Enterprise Portal Software. We didn't outsource the decision to consultants. We didn't take it lightly. We put a lot of effort into it. And we're very confident that going with Microsoft was the right answer. If we had to make the decision again, unanimously, it would be to go with Microsoft. At the end, I'd be happy to talk to you guys more about the decisions you might be struggling with or about some of the implementation details that really bogged us down. So thank you very much.
While Vineet is looking for our presentation, how did you like the keynote session today? By way of waiting for the presentation to come up, long time ago, I was working on the third computer in the country. That's a long time ago. There were no software companies. There hardly were anything that already coders. And we had a project as a graduate student in physics where we needed to plot a circle on what we call a cathode ray tube, or a CRT, taken off an analog computer. And it took 8 graduate students 5 months to draw a circle on a cathode ray tube. So I think we've advanced a little bit since then. My name is Randy Rand. I'm the founder of Infonaut Corporation. And with me is Vineet Joshi, who is our Vice President of Engineering. And by the way, he's here because that was the zenith of my highest accomplishment as a developer. And I gave up right after then. We'd like to talk a little bit today about our experience as a company, Infonaut, and our association now with Virtual Earth. I'd like to give you an overview of the company, talk about why we're here with Virtual Earth, give a brief demo, and talk about our current roadmap, and eventually about business-wise why we're here. Infonaut is a web service provider to primarily worldwide enterprises that have millions of tens of thousands, not actually some cases over 1 million locations across the globe. And we're based in Denver. We have about 40 some odd customers. Last year, we, as a web servicer, provided over 200 million map transactions for our enterprise customers. We guided about 900 million end users to location of business that they have. And we have essentially 3 principal products. We have our locator service. We have our business analytics. When we're dealing with enterprises, when they have such a large segment of the business dependent on location services, there's a tremendous need for understanding the impact on the business of the traffic that's being driven off the web. And we have another segment or derivative of the business, which we call Channel Insight. And primarily for those clients of ours who operate and sell via the channel, they are not really aware who their end customers are, and we're able to process sales data from reseller, retailers, distributors, and essentially dress up for our enterprise clients who their end users are. In terms of our business service model, we interface with Virtual Earth, or about to be interfacing with Virtual Earth. We just made a decision late last year, early this year, to migrate from our current provider, MapQuest, to Virtual Earth. And the service model we have is essentially, since we're dealing with enterprise customers, we have to make sure that any touch point where customer interact with our enterprise clients, that we're able to provide uniformly the same answer. So if people call on the phone to interact with voice response unit, if people access the internet via the laptop, desktop, a call center, a mobile device, we provide a congruent solution for locating the business points to transact business with. We have, in addition to providing the accessibility here, we have a substantial number of plugins or additional business support library that can associate the locations with promotions, with leads, inventory. You don't want to send somebody to a location if they're interested, let's say, in a particular ink cartridge to replace an ink cartridge for a Hewlett-Packard computer. You don't want to go to CompUSA and only find out that they don't have that ink cartridge on the shelf. So there's a lot of integration here with data assets as a whole, and we integrate with a wide variety of assets that have substantial technology associated with that. We operate in about 210 countries, or essentially every country on the globe. We have assets that we're directing traffic for our enterprise customers. And the closest is not always the best. So we need to profile the end user, understand what they're looking for, and try to match them with the best point of service that would enable our enterprise customer to convert that opportunity to sale. So we have a set of business rules that govern how we match and rank and display and connect point of service or point of business with end users. And we do it, as I said, in 210 countries and in over 26 languages. There's a tremendous layer of reporting, which is extremely important for any enterprise business, for Hewlett-Packard, or if you're Visa, or if you're Bank of America. You want to know, do I have the coverage? If I'm Bank of America and if people are looking for ATMs, let's say in Montana, do I have a coverage for them? If not, should I place an ATM there? So there's tremendous interaction between the traffic on the various access points and the business that our clients transact, and they need and the thirst for data. So reports are extremely important. And again, when we're dealing with enterprise customers, they essentially do what they want to a large extent. We can host the solution fully for them. They can host partially the solution. We host it partially. We can communicate via XML, or we install it on our client sites. And we have a professional services group that would support the client in the various phases of the implementation. As far as architecture go, I'll turn it over to Vineet.
Okay, so I'm going to talk briefly about the architecture of the location insight product. And so as pretty much any product is concerned, there's a data tier at the very bottom, and that's consists of all the data that we get from our customers, their location data, which we then in turn geocode and prepare for searching, which again, like Randy said, we can host, or it's hosted by our customers or available over web services. We have built a locator framework with about 11, 12 years of experience in location services, and that framework is hosted in our backend servers, but can also be deployed remotely to client sites or co-located client sites. And until recently, we had MapQuest as our GIS platform, but we are switching over to Virtual Earth, in the process of switching over to Virtual Earth. And we've built a thin geoservices platform or framework on top of Virtual Earth, which essentially used to be MapQuest, and we ported that. But what that allows us to do is build locator applications or other applications, including our analytic insight and channel insight applications, using mapping services and GIS services within those applications becomes a breeze as a result of that platform. And then from an architecture perspective, at every layer, we have the ability to gather data that then feeds into the BI, into the data warehouse for the analytics, the business analytics. So.
Thank you, Vineet. So, so essentially, dealing with major enterprises who are exposed continuously to, who have, by the way, a large IT department, they're always up to date, they're always aware of the market offering, and they always demand from their vendors or suppliers the best and the top. So last year, in about February timeframe, we recognized that the then current provider, which was MapQuest, just was not keeping up with the technology. And we recognized it was a very vital part of our service here, and we had to take a real hard look and see where we're going to go from there. So we launched an intensive analysis and a project that looked into the various providers of geoservices with the purpose of obviously partnering with the one that we felt comfortable in terms of carrying us to the long future. And the reason I'm saying it, we have literally millions, in the tens of millions we invested in our overall technology in the past 11 years or so, and that infrastructure is extremely expensive to migrate. It's highly integrated, and so we wanted to look at someone that A, can afford us immediately the best technology. And we had to answer to our enterprise clients, we knew we would have to, about the selection. So technology and current features was extremely important. When you look at technology, of course, it's like a horse race. I mean, one day some company leads, the next day another company leads. The best harbinger of the staying in the state of the art and leading technology is the rate of investment that one makes in technology. So it became a very important element as well, as a vendor, as a supplier. How much are you investing? And thirdly, and most importantly, actually, was a service level that we need to rely on in order to support our enterprise customers. During the holiday season, for example, if we think of the time between November, after Thanksgiving to Christmas, we have some of our customers would generate maybe $10, $15, $20 million a day in revenues off the locator transactions that we're driving to the business points. So any downtime, be it minutes, costs a lot of money. So SLA eventually become the paramount most metric that you need to look at. They would give up on some technology as long as they're up and they're driving business to their point of sales. The short of it, as we were investigating it, frankly, to our surprise, Microsoft popped up from nowhere as a definite leader in any one of those categories. We were working very closely with Google, and I dealt with some of the top executives, and I was very dismayed to find out that they were not willing to support any service level matrix. And it didn't matter how much you tried to explain to them from an enterprise point of view that it was fundamental, it was necessary, they absolutely refused to accept that. So just on those bases alone, they would be disqualified, at least for the marketplace that we're present in. So the upshot was that in terms of features, such as we heard bird's eye view, precision of geocoding, which is extremely important, and many other features that Vineet would go to in the next slide, Microsoft was top. In investment in technology, as I said, is a harbinger of the future. Clearly, Microsoft was outspending at the time that we were dealing with the folks there almost $10 to $1 with a second investor in technology. And SLA, frankly, Microsoft is second to none. At 99.5% uptime, nobody can touch it in the business. In terms of the salient points, go ahead.
So I'd like to highlight some of the prominent features. The most important one for our customers was the data grid searching, the old flow of locators. You typically went to one page, typed an address, and then the next page showed a map with a bunch of locations, and then you drill down on any one location and got a zoomed in view of the map or something. And that was just unacceptable from a usability perspective, and also from the perspective that it was costing our customers a lot more in transaction costs than they had to. Going to Virtual Earth allowed us to have panned and zoomed maps on the same page, and all we had to implement was searching while someone was panning and zooming. So it was extremely beneficial for our customers. Some of the other features, the geocoding, we did a very comprehensive evaluation of Google, MapQuest, and Virtual Earth, and Microsoft came on top in geocoding quality from an accuracy perspective. So that was very important for our customers to have accurate ATM or locator information. And then there's a bunch of other features. The other most important feature for us was handheld support. We were spending hundreds and hundreds of hours testing a variety of devices when we were using MapQuest maps, and Virtual Earth was a no-brainer because they come out of the box with support for Windows Mobile and J2ME technologies, and it would save us a whole bunch of money from a development cost and testing cost perspective. So it was definitely something we would go with. Then as far as local projections, I'll let Randy address that.
So to paraphrase a politician, essentially all business is local. Eventually, it doesn't matter what we do. There's a person or business or an entity in a specific location that is engaging in a commercial transaction of buying and selling. So when we look at the capabilities that VIA affords us in terms of taking business reports and taking information and converting it to a mapping or geographical metaphor, it gives us a tremendous capability, which is basically second to none, with the imagery, with the mapping, with the global coverage, and frankly, the willingness of partnering with us and listening to what we need in addressing it, as we've heard earlier from Arik. I'd like to spend a few minutes here on the demo here.
So I'm going to show you a quick demo. You've seen a bunch of the features from the other presenters, so I can highlight some features that Infona has. So we've got the standard location insight demo that we built for our customers that when we go out on the road and show it to them. But I can basically show you some features that, like the point of interest layer is so these are showing ATM locations. We've got mainly ATM and branch demo data loaded into the system, but some of the highlights here where we can zoom in, zoom out, and you've seen some of them, the hybrid view, obviously, and then searching while panning. That's a very nice feature of that we've implemented. But the hybrid view is also a really nice feature, or the aerial views. We are in the process of implementing 3D and bird's eye again for LI. The other thing you'll notice is we've got some this search filters over here, and that's data sensitive, context sensitive. So if we are, for example, displaying store locator data for some store, we have the ability using our web framework to display a different set of images, a different set of filters, and these essentially, for example, I want to see all the 24-hour ATMs or not, those kind of things. We've got driving directions implemented, like someone else showed. So for example, I can, let's see. I can get directions from the airport to that particular location. In this case, happens to be a branch location. And it's using, again, Virtual Earth for the driving directions. And finally, what I'd like to show you in this demo is some things we have implemented for the location insight, as well as our other product lines, which is searching using polygons. And we've got a free-form polygon search in development. But for example, I can select this rectangle search and search within a given set of rectangles. I mean, a given region that is defined. Same thing with a circle. And this is extremely useful in one of our product lines for, again, disaster recovery. So as Eric was mentioning, British Petroleum, we have some customers that want to find out all their assets that are affected when, say, a hurricane or tornado cuts across the US or some other area. And they can draw freeform polygons and then determine what assets, and those assets can be anything. They're just data points at that point. But I'd like to go back to Randy at this point. So
thank you, Vineet. So in terms of roadmap, we came here, frankly, with the idea of superimposing data on the geographical metaphor that we talked about earlier. So in terms of business analytics, sales credit assignments, the ability to provide folks just about in any application, since all business is local. If you have a payroll application, we can demonstrate this to people, obviously, the geographical spread of the money that they spend, employees, taxes they pay, etc. But frankly, I was very, very deeply impressed by the presentation today. And I realized in some sense what kind of a wonderful serendipitous choice it was, because the ability to enliven now the locator site or the mapping site with images, the ability to, for example, if we're providing a branch location service to a customer, like if you're Bank of America, let the branch speak, download the videos, download the images, let people in a branch describe the location, the services they provide. It kind of opens a whole new world, which puts a whole new dynamics into it. So Vineet and I were spending some time after the morning, and I mean, was just kind of feeling extremely fortunate of kind of partnering in this environment. Eventually, of course, it's all about money. We're all out here trying to make a living. And we spend an awful lot of money on our infrastructure. So eventually, they all had to come down to, okay, I mean, it's nice to talk about all the capabilities, the sizzle of virtual Earth, but where's the money? So as we looked at our cost structure, essentially our operational costs are decreasing by about 40% in terms of the staffing we need to support the same level of service that we need to provide our enterprise clients. And let me tell you, most of our employees have a pager, which is 24/7. And when any one of our enterprise clients has a problem, the pager is answered instantly or we'll lose the business. And some of the contracts we have are in the millions of dollars. So we're extremely cognizant in terms of service, and the partnership with Virtual Earth enables us to substantially save in this area. Staffing costs as a whole is roughly decreased by 20%. SLAs, again, we heard earlier, Microsoft is assuming an enormous burden. Since we had to guarantee SLAs, we literally had to have a dual hosting system in our data centers in Denver to make sure that if anything happened, that we can take over and we can run. So we have mapping assets and the locating engines, and we're able to run independently of our supplier. Microsoft is alleviating that substantially. In terms of development costs, that's really the key. It's not as effective as drawing circles, but it's pretty significant in terms of our own costs in implementing new customers, and there's about 50% in saving. But in totality, we're looking at about 9 to 15 months to return our investment in transitioning to Microsoft. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Eric.
We want to be mindful of the next session, so I think what we're going to do is make ourselves available for questions on the outside, and give the next group time to set up. And so all four of us from Microsoft and the partners will be just outside. Thanks a lot.